I want to thank you for coming this afternoon. When the casino project or the casino proposal was first introduced and passed in 2009, there were certain designated recipients of that money, and the county was one of them. Now, one of the things that we're quite proud of is that we are the first, and I think to this date still the only public entity in Ohio that made a very firm commitment right at the outset that we would use our portion of casino money specifically for development. That we weren't going to put it back into our own operations, but we were going to really try to use it as an economic development tool. And that's what we've done. Now, a few months ago, and there's a lot of public press and attention about this, we had passed through county council an arrangement where we were going to collect this money, and then if we found appropriate uses for it, basically in a downtown district, anywhere from the lakefront to the inner belt and from West 25th to East 25th, if we found qualifying projects that we thought were going to be transformative and keep this incredible momentum that we've seen happening in downtown Cleveland, if we could keep it going by the investment of that casino revenue, we would spend that money before 2016. That's what today's announcement is all about. So we have collected to date, we have only collected about $4 million, but we're anticipating that we're going to get about another $8 million of casino revenue by the end of this year. We're due to get another payment sometime soon. So why are we making these investments in downtown? Well, a lot of reasons. First of all, Cleveland, and downtown Cleveland in particular, really is the capital of Cuyahoga County. We believe that. We think it's the strategic place where if we make an investment, it helps not just the city of Cleveland, but all of Cuyahoga County. 72% of the people that work in downtown live outside of the city of Cleveland. Suburban residents bring home more than $4 billion in wages that are earned in the downtown district. And the wages that are being paid downtown are more than the local average or the national average. It's about 50% higher than the county's median income. We also know that downtown's impact is really, it's not even just about Cuyahoga County, it's the entire region. And there's a multiplier effect for dollars that are spent downtown. It helps the entire region. And we also know that there's been momentum building. More and more people are visiting downtown. There's approximately 15 million visitors a year to downtown Cleveland, and the estimate is that that is going to double in the next few years. So one of the problems with development in downtown Cleveland has been we'll have a great project and then we'll have kind of a slowdown. So we'll have peaks and valleys. And we want to try to keep this momentum going. We think that's absolutely essential. We also know that in terms of dealing with our population challenges, that downtown makes sense to make investments as well, because 3 out of 4 young people and young professionals right now, they identify downtown urban areas as where they want to relocate. Now, that's also reflected in what we've seen with downtown occupancy. We're going to talk about that in a little bit later because it's one of these projects. But the downtown occupancy is basically full occupancy. It's between 94 and 97% right now. There's waiting lists for people that want to live downtown. So it makes sense for us to try to add fuel to that as much as we possibly can. So we're going to be introducing some of our partners in these projects, but we're very excited to announce the following projects. This is the first installment that we're going to be proposing our casino money be spent on. It's going to be a proposal that goes in front of our county council any day now. The first project is about $1.5 million that's going to assist in the conversion of a long vacant property, which is the East Ohio Gas Building. It's going to create 200 market rate apartments, which are going to address this whole real strong demand that we have for downtown housing. We're also proposing using another $1.5 million to complete the phase 2 of the Flats East Bank project. We're having this press conference right now in what was phase 1 of the project, which really, after all of these decades of talk about downtown or lakefront development, where we're standing right now has proven that it can be done and it can be a success. And we want phase 2 to be a success too. And not only, by the way, are we putting in $1.5 million of casino money, but we're also allowing the county's basically bonding authority to be used for an additional $17 million of what's called an industrial revenue bond. That will help make phase 2 of the Flats project become a reality, and you're going to hear about that in a moment. And then one of the most exciting projects I think that's been announced recently, we wanted to be a partner in, and that's the very exciting renovations and redesign of the streetscape and the public spaces of Playhouse Square. So $4 million of the casino money is being earmarked towards the Playhouse Square Improvement District. That is going to leverage about a $16 million investment, which is going to improve accessibility, safety, and the walkability of the country's second largest theater district. And it's going to connect, all these things are going to help connect the community with itself, but it's going to connect Playhouse Square with Public Square. So we're very proud that we're able to have these kinds of partners, and I want to recognize at this point in time to say a few words about each of these individual projects, some of our partners. And I'm going to start actually with Art Falco, if I could. Art is the Executive Director of Playhouse Square, and he's going to talk a little bit about the specifics of that project and the way that the county's investment in that project is going to help it become a reality.
Thank you, Ed. Well, Playhouse Square is very, very excited to be partnering with the county on this project because this project is going to be transformational in so many ways. It's going to bring the beauty of what you see inside the theaters outdoors. So with gateways, entry points into the district, a very iconic 20-foot chandelier where we don't believe there's anything like it anywhere else in the world. It's going to be made of crystal, and it's going to be about 40 feet high. We also are going to redo Star Plaza to make it more people-friendly, to redo the pavilion to create a very welcoming place, as well as video boards, a retro Playhouse Square sign. The community has invested approximately $100 million into Playhouse Square, which is really a pittance compared to new performing arts centers in other cities that cost $400 million and don't have the beauty and the character of what we have right now. But the annual return to the community is $43 million just for the theaters, and when you include the real estate is over $60 million a year. And we believe that this project is going to expand that by tens of millions of dollars on an annual basis. We have 1 million people coming to Playhouse Square annually with 1,000 curtains, and we see this as an economic development project. It's not just a streetscape project, but an economic development project that will spur further residential development, more retail, and really create the dynamic critical mass that we have always sought for at Playhouse Square. So thank you, Ed, for the confidence to move forward, and also the County Council, because we really see this as a transformative project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Art. And I want to be clear just in terms of what our process is. County Council had already approved that these revenues would be flagged for downtown development. Then it was up to the executive's office to come up with specific projects and proposals. That's what you're hearing today. Then they will get a chance to deliberate on that and see if they agree with what our priorities are. At this point, I want to recognize Doug Price from K&D. He's going to talk a little bit about the East Ohio residential project. Doug.
Thanks, Ed. Sure. Well, Art's a hard act to follow. But East Ohio is a $65 million remake of a 300,000 square foot vacant building at 9th and Superior. It's sort of at Main Street and Main Street. As you can see by the renderings, the apartments are going to be absolutely spectacular, all glass. It's going to employ about 200 to 250 union people working at it for over 2 years. As Ed said, occupancy downtown is really, we're full. We're in the process of bringing online right now at the Hannah Complex 102 units, and at Reserve Square 232. We are 50% pre-leased already, so we expect to be full on those by the end of the year. So the timing for East Ohio was great, and it's great that Ed and the county recognize that housing goes hand in foot with jobs. The young people need places to live, so Again, very excited about it, and thank you so much for the county staff.
Great. Next, I want to recognize Adam Fishman. He is part of the development group that created the space that we're in right now. And he's also leading the charge with what is going to be phase 2 of it. Adam, if you could step forward and talk a little bit about what are the plans for phase 2 of this Flats development. Sure.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Flats East Bank. Delighted to see you all. We are standing on the 13th floor of the Flats East Bank office tower. It's part of a $280 million first phase, which opens now in just a few weeks. The commitment to move forward on phase 2 is really led by our partners, the Wolstein family, who've made an extraordinary financial commitment both to phase 1 and phase 2. And we are actively trying to move forward on phase 2, which includes almost $140 million of additional investment. The county executive has identified this as a project that, as he mentioned earlier, will continue to bring the development to the waterfront. It includes over 200 very high-end private new construction luxury residences, a series of white tablecloth restaurants, a new 1,200-foot boardwalk along the riverfront, a variety of clubs and riverfront dining opportunities. Toby Keith's I Love This Bar and Grill will open in phase 2 as well. So it's an extraordinarily important aspect as we continue the march to the riverfront. And our anchor tenants here at phase 1, which include Ernst & Young, Tucker Ellis, Ken Stewart's Grill, Wileyville, Lago, and a variety of other corporate tenants, are very anxious for us to move forward, as I know all of the citizens of Northeastern Ohio are. So we're delighted you're all here, and thank you.
Great. I want to call forward, if I could, Joe Marinucci. He's the Executive Director of Downtown Cleveland Alliance, just to make some general comments about what we're seeing now in the whole trend of downtown Cleveland development. Joe?
Thank you, County Executive Fitzgerald. From downtown's perspective, first of all, let me say how pleased we are from the Alliance's perspective that you're here, that you're making this announcement here in downtown Cleveland. As we all know, we're in the midst of about a $3 billion investment period for downtown Cleveland. And in many ways, the opportunities that we're talking about today really represent the next phase. And we really have an opportunity with these announcements and other announcements I think that you'll be hearing about shortly from the community's perspective to really take the development and the evolution and momentum in downtown Cleveland to a whole new level. As many of us recall, we went through a similar investment pattern in the late 80s and the early 90s. To be frank, I think many of us took too long a breath and stepped back from some of those opportunities. And to be frank, Ed, we're very pleased that you've taken the confidence and you're making these investments in downtown, because for us to continue the momentum, we need to double down. We need to really continue this pattern of investing in downtown. As the executive mentioned, downtown is really the symbolic and the actual heart of this region. So from our perspective, we're very pleased that you've identified these 3 projects. Our hope is that they will continue the momentum that we've been experiencing, and in years to come, we hope to add to the momentum by announcing additional investments, additional opportunities here in downtown Cleveland. So on behalf of the Alliance, congratulations not only to these 3 projects, but to the county for bringing forward this proposal.
Well, I would just sum up by saying, and we can take questions afterwards, or if you want to ask us questions now, but just what I'm seeing in Greater Cleveland is the whole community is getting its confidence back. And as Joe mentioned, there were times in the 80s where you saw major investments in downtown, but a lot of them were public investments, and then they kind of withered a little bit on the vine. What is really exciting to me with all these projects, I can tell you, I remember talking to Adam Fishman years ago, talking about phase 1 and saying, well, I wonder if phase 2 is possible. Now we're telling you it is possible, it's going to happen. I remember talking to Doug Price a few years ago, and he was talking about some possibilities of some real expansions in downtown housing, but he wasn't sure it was going to happen. Now it's happening. And if you talk about what's going on at Playhouse Square, I remember being at some events a few years ago where Art Falco and his team were talking about hopes and dreams they had about what Playhouse Square could look like, but who knew whether it was really going to happen. It's happening. Things are happening. There's a real timeline and a whole pipeline of funding now, in a timeline where these events are really happening. So it's not just salesmanship or something. There are shovels in the ground, there are cranes in the air, and things are getting done. And I think what you're seeing is you're going to see an optimistic period in Cleveland's development future that we really just have not seen for decades and decades and decades. And you don't have to just be a civic booster to believe that. Now you have to just be a confirmed cynic and pessimist not to believe that it's going to happen. You've got to be just absolutely take it on faith that it's not going to happen, because things are really gelling between the public sector and the private sector. It's so important. With all this money that the public sector is talking about putting into it, it's dwarfed in comparison to the private capital that's in all of these projects. These are huge, multi-million-dollar projects. The public money is only basically gap financing. The vast majority of the funding is coming from the private sector. That's why people should have confidence that this whole initiative is really going to work. And all of these projects, by the way, they complement each other. From what's happening at the lakefront to what's happening in our theater district to adding new residents downtown, we're creating a vibrant downtown that's really starting to get national notice. And I couldn't be happier with the way it's unfolding. And by the way, we are not done yet. We're going to be done with the press conference any second, but we are not done with these development projects. There are going to be more things that are going to be announced this year in the coming weeks and months that will also be complementary of what you've seen here today.